You are listening to Surviving Parenthood, the parenting podcast, the podcast which aims to challenge the one-size-fits-all parenting story. I am Sam, and as you know, I am forever curious about how parents survive modern-day parenting. Today, I am talking to Elliot Rae. He is the founder of MFF, Music Football Fatherhood, the parenting platform for men, which is all about open conversations around fatherhood. The BBC even described it as a dad's version of Mumsnet, as it aims to provide a space for dads to share the ups and downs of parenting. The MFF promotes a positive representation of diverse fatherhood through their Daddy Debates podcast and monthly peer sessions, The Lodge. So, Elliot, thanks for joining us today. I'm just wondering if you can tell us about your parenting setup at home.
Yeah, so it is me and my wife, Sneni.
Cool.
And we have one daughter, Eleni, she's 5. So we're married and we live in Watford. And in terms of the way we set up, so my daughter goes to school now, which is great.
Cool.
And we pretty much share the responsibilities. So we share the pickups and the drop-offs and that sort of stuff. And we both work. So yeah, we have that kind of arrangement.
So it's like a real co-parenting situation.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess traditionally co-parenting is when I hear that word, I think about, parents that aren't together. But I guess, yeah, you could say, shared parenting. Yeah. That's what we try to aim for.
Shared parenting, that's a good way of putting it. Mm-hmm. So I've literally just asked you about a funny parenting moment or foul, and you didn't have anything to come up with. So now I'm just sitting here feeling really bad. So you're just going to have to dig deep into your subconscious and find something that makes me feel better. Well, how was homeschooling? Were there any sort of, oh God, how am I going to get through the day moments?
The whole thing was the whole of last year.
Oh God.
Especially the first lockdown. Oh, it was horrible.
It was awful.
It was horrible. I mean, I've heard some parents talking about it was nice they got to spend more time with their children, especially some dads saying that, which is great.
That's cool.
That is really cool. I think for me, it was a nightmare, to be honest. I mean, there were times when I thought my head was going to explode. Literally. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not like, you just spend more time with your kids like you're on holiday. No. It was like, you're at home, you've got to homeschool, they're stressed out, they're worried, they're missing their friends. You still got to work, still got to cook. Cooking was the worst, and washing up.
Yeah.
There was just so much washing up at the end of the day. And there's just so much food to make.
It was literally just like a conveyor belt of, I just felt like it was breakfast, snacks, lunch snacks, bit more snacks, dinner, snack, and then bedtime. I just felt like it was a conveyor belt of making food and washing up, and then having to shoehorn in work and some kind of decent parenting and homeschooling. It's just like an impossible situation to be put in. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Cool.
It was horrible.
So you're not only in the crazy busy world of parenting, you are also very busy at the moment with the release of your new book, Dad, Untold Stories of Fatherhood, Love, Mental Health and Masculinity. I know you've probably been through this a million times over the last few weeks, but can you tell our listeners a bit about the new book, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm never going to get bored of talking about the book.
Okay, cool. I was a bit worried about going over old ground, but if you're good, that's cool with me.
No. I should have a copy. Why haven't I got a copy here to show everyone? But yeah, it's a collection of stories. It's my life's work is the thing I'm the most proud of, other than being a husband and dad, I should say. But other than that, it's it literally is my life's work in a book, basically. And it is a collection of 20 stories from different dads who have shared so openly and so honestly around their fatherhood experiences. So this is dads literally, it sounds cheesy to say, but this is dads like you haven't heard them before. This level of vulnerability is something that I personally haven't seen. I've worked with people and dads for years, but this level of vulnerability as a collection of stories from a collection of men, just hasn't existed in the world before. So we've got 20 dads. They're all different in terms of all across the UK, from different ages, different sexualities, different races. But they all have come together really because they recognize the strength in the collective. And they all want to kind of break down some of those traditional ideas around masculinity, that you can't talk about things that are tough, and you can't talk about being a dad and some of the difficult moments in that. So we've got stories from some of the most difficult parts of just being a human, actually. So Alec, for example, writes about widowhood. He lost his wife shortly after the second birth of their second son, the birth of their second son. So he writes, really honestly about his experiences there. Andy, his partner had 3 miscarriages, so he talks about that from a dad's perspective. Jamie went through stillbirth. So we got those, really, really, really kind of touching chapters. But we also have some chapters that are kind of, everyone will experience in some shape or form, or a lot of people would experience. So, James writes about identity and just having a lack of time as a new dad, and trying to we kind of connect with your hobbies. Got a couple of chapters around co-parenting. We've got stuff around mental health in there, around being in a mixed race relationship and raising a child of dual heritage. So these are 20 dads that have come together, and I think the book's having an amazing impact. It's like, sometimes we get feedback from people about how it's helping in their relationships with their son or their husband or their own dad, and how it's helping them to see the world differently and to not make assumptions about people and understand different people a bit more. So yeah, really, really proud of it. It was published on the 1st of June, and it's doing really well. It's done so well. So yeah, I'm so proud of how it's going so far.
I'm so pleased for you. I'm just wondering if you can tell us, I know in the introduction to your book, I've read the intro, I've got that one. When you started the MFF, Music, Football, Fatherhood, I know you said in the introduction it was sort of like your own version of therapy. Do you want to tell us a bit more about your own personal uphill struggles and what it was like after the birth of your child?
Yeah, so for me, it did start really as something very personal for me, really, a space to just kind of share my experiences and my thoughts. At the time of starting the platform, it was New Year's Day, actually, 2016. So my daughter would have been 2.5 months old. And we were in the thick of it, really, because what happened with us is we had a really good, the pregnancy was fine, but the birth was quite difficult, a very long labor, and lots of up and downs in terms of heart rate scares and stuff like that. And my daughter was quite ill when she was born. And she had an infection called GBS, Group B strep, which meant when she was born, she wasn't kind of breathing properly. She was quite grey, and they rushed her to intensive care. And my wife was also quite sick as well. She was losing a lot of blood. So we spent a couple of weeks in hospital, and it was up and down. We didn't know whether the antibiotics were working. 1 minute the infection was going down, 1 minute it wasn't, sort of thing. So it was kind of, a really tough time in hospital. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, my daughter developed this bump in the back of her head, just randomly.
Yeah.
And that was really worrying because, the doctors were really concerned about what it was. And we had to do an emergency MRI scan and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really, really difficult time in the hospital. Thank God it all worked out. My daughter's healthy and she's fine.
That's good.
But what happened was we kind of went back home, a few days at home and back to work. And so over the coming months, kind of developing symptoms of PTSD. I didn't know at the time, but the nightmares, the insomnia, basically not having time to process the events of what had happened. It was kind of back into work and new parenting and whatnot. And my wife also had postnatal anxiety as well. So for me, I guess MFF at the time was a space where I could just kind of express myself. It was an outlet. It was something that I guess I could control and own.
Yeah.
And it started as that, and over the time, it's kind of grown to be a support network for other dads too, which is something I didn't actually think it was going to be at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's quite funny how things work out, I guess.
So that wasn't like the original intention, but it just sort of unfolded and became a togetherness for shared experiences.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, it was more just like my personal thing. I think very quickly I did realize that other dads wanted the space too. So after 3-4 months, it was evident that people were saying, "Oh, what's this? Can I write? Can I get involved?" So I did kind of quickly realize this was something bigger than myself. But literally at the beginning, it was literally just a space for me to start writing and a personal blog, really.
Okay, that's cool. If we could just go back to when you said about sort of owning and sharing your feelings, I'm just sort of wondering, in your view, why you think a lot of men, and obviously I don't know if it is a lot of men, but some men at least, feel like it is difficult to talk about their feelings, feel like it is difficult to bare their soul and be vulnerable.
Yes, I think it starts from early. It starts from before we're dads. A lot of these ideas are kind of consciously and subconsciously communicated to young children.
Yeah.
The way we speak about boys, there are expectations around boys, the way we act around them. It doesn't lend itself to kind of men growing up and all of a sudden being these kind of amazing communicators around their emotions. It just doesn't happen, because a lot of the time we teach boys to be strong, to not complain, to not cry. I was saying boys don't cry. That kind of sums it up completely, really. And there's lots of studies actually that show in schools there is, those kind of those gender roles start from schools, even from teachers may do it subconsciously as well. There's a charity called the Fawcett Society, and we're doing a bit of work with them, and they are kind of really big in that space around challenging stereotypes. And it's damaging for boys and girls. Girls have it too, in terms of teachers and maybe sometimes even parents not encouraging them to do sport, for example. So there's it starts from a young age, and then we kind of get surprised when men get older, and it's like, why can't you communicate your emotions? It's like, I haven't been taught to. So I think it is really important for like parents and teachers as well to just be mindful, I guess, about how they are bringing up their children and making sure they are not. Then the gender of that child isn't kind of driving some of their parenting decisions, especially when it comes to emotions and communication and stuff like that.
So is that what you would love to see, sort of that gender stereotyping being really looked at within the family and school network? Do you feel like if we start a lot younger, then things will really start to change, and by the time those boys get to adults, they will be much better communicators and be able to express themselves more freely?
Yeah, I think it's part of the solution, definitely. I think sometimes we can look at problems, and we're looking at problems, not just this problem, but in society in general, we look at problems when it's too late. We kind of look at putting a plaster over something rather than looking at the root cause. And when we're looking at suicide rates, like 3 out of 4 suicides are men. And I don't think that's because men have more challenges than women at all. I think it's literally just the way that we deal with our problems and the way we process them, and who we speak to about our problems. So there's lots of different things there, and that starts the root of that is we are all a product of our childhood. Essentially, you go to therapy, it's quite scary. The amount of stuff they'll tell you about your childhood. So we are all products of that, and I think that's where it has to start. It has to start there, and hopefully if we can do that more, and breed a generation of kind of emotionally literate men, if you like, of people who are able to communicate, who are able to share, who are able to talk about things they find tough, whose friendships are different to maybe traditionally what male friendships have been. I think that will solve a lot of the problems. It's so funny, like even myself, I'm talking like this now, but 6-7 years ago, I wasn't this person. Ultimately, like even my friendships, based on what I've done, my friendships are completely different now. With some of the same people, but we speak on such a different level now, because of experiences. Because of parenthood. Parenthood's a big one. But just personal experiences, life humbles you along the way. And you realize actually, as a human being, there's going to be ups and downs. I've had some great times. Over the last years, I've had some amazing experiences, like literally life-changing, great stuff. Also some difficult things around, loss and all that sort of stuff. So I think we need to be able to be whole, and we need to be able to talk about both.
The Twinkl Parents Hub is full of helpful advice, activities, and ideas to support people like you. You can find stacks of content to help with your child's learning, blogs packed with fun ideas, and resources to support you and your child's health and well-being. Head to the Twinkl website, click Parents, and see how we can help you survive and thrive. Twinkl Parents, made by teachers, trusted by parents.
Yeah, and I'm guessing with new dads especially, I'm just thinking of, that suicide rate that you mentioned there. I'm just wondering, it is such a shock, isn't it, when you enter the world of parenthood? And I imagine that new dads are especially vulnerable when it comes to that.
They are, yeah. So there's some recent research. A guy called Mark Williams is a big mental health campaigner. He's done some research recently, and it shows that 39% of new dads are concerned, so expectant dads are concerned about their mental health. 1 in 10 new dads will experience some symptoms of postnatal depression in the first 6 months.
Okay.
And new dads whose partners are diagnosed with postnatal depression are 50% more likely to develop it themselves as well. So I think for new dads especially, it is a challenge, not just because lockdown's a big thing, and being a new parent in lockdown, I can imagine must have been very hard because there's no support. You can't go to your grandparents' house, you can't, or your parents' house. NHS support, a lot of it has been online. You're cooped up in the house a lot of the time. So during lockdown, I think it's been a challenge for people. I think for new dads, there's the life change of that pressure now to feel like they need to be the breadwinner. Relationships change a lot as well. Sleep deprivation, all these things that we know. But also, there's hormone changes in men too. Some men will experience a drop in testosterone when they're a new dad.
Okay.
And that is really interesting. I think like we're all ultimately animals and our bodies do that so we can, build bonds with our children. But that hormone change can also result in low mood and stuff like that too. So there's plenty of reasons as to why. And I think it's really good now that some NHS trusts are kind of assessing new dads, especially new dads that are seen as high risk. So if you're high risk, that means that you have either witnessed a traumatic birth, or you have had previous mental health conditions, or your partner suffering from postnatal mental health problems as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be like a really positive step forward, wouldn't it? If that was, if that screening became more commonplace, that would be an amazing step. And what about sort of expectant dads? I'm just wondering, I think you do have these preconceived ideas of what parenthood might look and feel like, and when you get there, it is completely different. And I think, like with me, I think I just thought I could, in some ways, continue some of the aspects of my life as it was when I, became a mum, and it just, just the rug was literally ripped from beneath my. It was just, especially, I think actually the first one is probably more difficult. I think I've got two. When my second one came along, I think you're just used to the sort of hellish sleepless nights, and you're used to sacrificing yourself fully. But from going, from sort of going from having a really nice full life and being, doing really nice things, all of a sudden, just being at home and not doing any of those things. I'm just wondering, like, in terms of expectant dads, if you had any advice or anything to say about that.
Yeah, loads. So I think with expectant dads, and we talk a lot about this. We've got a podcast called Daddy Debates. We just did an episode on this last week, actually,
cool.
Just on new dads. But I think the important thing for expectant dads is to identify with their role as a dad very early on. So babies can hear us. I think it's 24 weeks. Cool, they can hear us, and they start to build relationships with obviously their mother and the people around them as well. So dads can start to build that relationship with their babies before they are born. I think that's really important, actually, because what happens a lot of the time, men won't identify themselves as parents until their baby is here, and they won't think about what kind of dad they want to be, and a vision for their family, and how they want to parent, and all those sort of things, and their relationship, and what they're going to do in terms of sharing responsibilities. They won't think about that stuff until after the baby's born. And after the baby's born, obviously, it's hard to think about anything, right? So it's very difficult. So I think what we try to encourage is expectant dads to think about what kind of dad they want to be. And by that, I mean, what kind of relationship do they want to have with their children? What kind of dad are they going to be? Are they going to be a really soft, playful dad? Are they going to be a bit more of an authority, disciplinarian kind of dad? What do they want to do with their children for fun? And then think of that work, like, how are you going to work? Are you going to kind of try and work flexibly? Are you going to just work part-time, full-time? What's that going to look like between you and your partner? What's your family setup going to be? Like, the more that we can get dads to think about those kind of things, it does really help, not just the dad, but that family when the baby's born. Because, I think it's 40% of parents will argue more when they're having a new baby, and that stat is probably higher.
Yeah.
It's probably higher, and I think a lot of it is, some of it is just we can't get away, just sleep deprivation and whatever. But some of it, I think, is due to a lack of communication. So, for example, we did marriage prep with our vicar before we got married, and then we did baby prep. And that was really good. We went to their house and they just talked to us about some of the things we should be thinking about. So, think about who's going to do the night feeds, for example. How are you going to distribute that stuff? Think about the jobs that you're going to have to do. Think about the vision for your family. Think about what kind of family you want to be. Where do you want to live? What kind of child do you want to raise? Obviously, they're going to be themselves, but what kind of values do you want to instill in them? All those sort of things. And that really, really helped us. That really, really helped us. And I think having that plus the experience that we went through meant that in some ways parenting was very difficult, but it was very easy. It was very difficult in terms of the things that we were experiencing. But actually, the sleepless nights and all that sort of stuff wasn't a problem because we'd already talked about stuff, but we were just so happy to have our daughter there. So wake up in the night wasn't really being tired. We didn't really complain about that sort of stuff. But I think for other parents, obviously everyone has different situations. So I think for expectant dads, it's about communication. I think it's about thinking about what sort of dad you want to be. It's about building a relationship with your baby. Reading to them, singing to them, touching them. And doing that stuff really early on. That helps to build that attachment. And dads need to build attachment with their baby. That's really important that they build that attachment with their baby really early on. And when it comes to stuff like equality and gender equality and equal parenting, the earlier on that dad can build an attachment with their baby, they're not going to just need to do parenting because they're the dad. They're going to want to. They're going to want to work flexibly when the kid gets older. They're going to want to do the school pickup because they have that bond and they actually enjoy spending time with their child. So yeah, it's really important on so many levels.
Oh, that's so cool. So I guess it's about keeping that really open, frank, honest communication going. I'm just wondering what kind of dad you are. How would you describe your parenting style?
I don't know. I ask my daughter this all the time, actually.
Oh, yeah? What did she say?
She says, you tickle me a lot.
Oh, it's cute.
Yeah, what kind of dad am I? I don't know, really. I think I'm a mix of everything, really. I'm kind of super chilled out sometimes. And I let her kind of get away with a lot more than I got away with, to be honest. So part of me is super chilled. Part of me is just wants her to be happy really and confident. And I think I've realized the importance of feeling free and feeling not so scared of authority. So I always want her to just have that. So I try to do what I can to breed her confidence. But then I'm quite easygoing on that. But then other things I'm quite strict on, I think, just in terms of respect.
Yeah.
In terms of little things not the other day she threw a tissue in the park and didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, So some things I'm super. And then other things I'm just stay up to 11 p.m. and watch the football. It's fine.
Oh, I love that. I think it is a bit inconsistent anyway, though, isn't it? It's I'm the same. Some days I'm whatever, do what you like when you like, and I've got nothing to say in terms of parenting. Sometimes I'm no, you're going to do it exactly the way I want you to. Just about football now, I'm just going to seamlessly move on to the subject. I just really wanted to check in with you, on a personal level. Obviously, we're recording this after the Euro final. And I know this week you held an event on rewriting our narratives and anti-racist parenting. And I know that we've chatted and I know that you were immensely proud of the players, but I just wanted to check in with you on a personal level, really, in a lot of ways after the unsurprising racial abuse, how you're doing it, how you're finding things.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. It's a weird one. It's been a weird one. Today I'm pretty tired today and I was thinking it's because on Sunday I had my first drink. I've had, I think, maybe all year. I've kind of stopped drinking.
Yeah.
But then during the match, I had a couple of beers and stuff like that. And so I was feeling it, probably for that reason on Monday morning. But then it was I saw, what was going on Monday morning. Yeah. And to be honest, it wasn't surprising. When I saw Saka and Sancho and Rashford missed, I was turn the TV off straight away. Didn't go on social media.
You know what's coming.
Yeah. You know what's going to come. So then on Monday, I didn't really engage with it. That's not a child,
by the way. This is my dog making those weird screechy sounds. It's not my child trying to get my attention. So if you're put off by thinking that I've got my child in a cupboard, 1 minute. Sorry, I interrupted your flow. Go for it.
That was funny. So yesterday morning, I personally didn't engage with a lot of the stuff I saw. People sent me stuff. I was like, just don't send me stuff. Like, I literally don't want to see it. But then we were making breakfast, and my wife was like, do you know what? You should do like an MFF Zoom about this. You should, cause we did some stuff last year around the murder of George Floyd. And so I was like, yeah, do you know what? That's a good idea. We should do something around anti-racist parenting, and also around resilience. Resilience just in general for our children that might be disappointed about the result, but also about anti-racism and how we can help our kids. So yeah, literally did the flyer, put it out there before I'd organised the event, just put it out there, and people started signing up, and I was like, okay, better organise this now. so like 2 p.m. I was messaging people that I know, like parenting experts, can you come and talk at this event? Or, so we got a panel of parents. We got a couple of parenting experts, and we had good turnout. We had an amazing conversation basically, and it was funny because a couple of hours before I went on 5 Live. I was on BBC Radio 5 Live talking about the event that I'd literally just organised like 6 hours ago. So that was quite funny. The whole day was mad. So yeah, Monday was crazy. And then yesterday was a busy day as well, talking at the APPG for Fatherhood and doing a couple of events and whatnot, the all-party parliamentary group for Fatherhood. So I haven't necessarily engaged with a lot of the stuff, but I think overall it's so sad. And it's so sad on so many different levels, because I think the sad thing is, for me, is the racism. And also the fact that it was just going so well. We'll have like the week Saturday, it was just unity, right? Like I was walking around and people were wearing England tops, black, Asian people, white people, everyone was on the same page. You can see the fans were so diverse in the stadiums. Like everyone was like, yeah, let's just get behind this team. And it seemed like great.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like, how did we get here? Like literally the 2 days after, or a day after Sunday, it seems like we've just gone backwards. And I was just like, what? How did we go from being in what seemed like a good place to this? And it's just sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's not surprising. It's just sad.
It's
like
so
literally
sad. It's definitely not surprising. Yeah. And I think as well, like in terms of the unsurprising thing, I think the last thing that everyone needs is more sort of white people, and I include myself in this, like coming in and like showing their shock and horror, because it's the reality for people of colour living in this country on a daily basis. So it isn't surprising, but it is deeply sad, and it just reveals the sort of inherent conditioning within this country, I think, unfortunately. I don't know if that will make it into the final podcast, but
yeah, no, it's sad. And I think it's sad. It's just sad. Like my overriding feelings is that I'm not angry, to be honest. I'm out of anger at the moment. I'm out of shock. It's just disappointing and sad, basically. Not disappointing in a shocking way, just like, actually it felt like we were in a good place, So that is very sad, and I keep using that word because it's true. But I think ultimately there's a couple of things here. Like the reason we called the event, writing our own narratives, is because that's what I did straight away. As soon as they missed the penalty, the only reason I went on social media was to tweet and say that, all the players, the 5 penalty takers, were all brave. They are courageous. They showed leadership, and, they will grow from the experience. They'll learn from the experience, and ultimately we move on, For me, that is the narrative. And I think it's so important that we don't let the racist people and all these people saying the ignorant things, we don't let them control the narratives in our minds. Because ultimately we had a great team, black players, white players. We played amazing. We did so well. No one expected us to get to the final. We did so well. Those players that stood up to take the penalty, they are the brave ones. To say you're going to stand up and say you're going to put the weight of the country on your shoulders and you're going to take a penalty, that is amazing. We should be celebrating that. We have these players that are going to stand up and do that. So the narrative in my mind and in my family and what I can control in our community is that. And I think it's so important that when these things happen, we don't get dragged into other people's narratives.
Yeah.
And we don't just read stuff and consume everything. We don't need to. We need to write our own narrative, control our own destiny, and reframe things how we want to for ourselves. And that's so important for our children as well. Like, not just with this, anything that happens, what's the narrative around it? And that's leadership. Because you can look at things in different ways. You can look at things and see them as this way and go with what people that you don't even agree with are saying. Or you can think, actually, this is how I'm going to frame it for myself. And I think that's what we always try and do, is reframe the narrative, write our own narrative around it. And for me, is that the 3 Black players that are missed are kings. They stood up. They played so well during the tournament. They deserve to be respected as all the players do. And we're going to celebrate them, and we're going to continue to support them in the future. And ultimately, can I say another thing as well?
Oh, that's so cool.
Is that England? Sorry, that's one thing. England historically, like, back in from '96 pretty much to the World Cup in 2018, the England team always played so rigidly. They were so scared of playing for England because they were so scared of making a mistake. Like the Lampards, the Gerrards, they openly admit this now. Rio Ferdinand, they talk about it now. The reason we've done so well in these last 2 tournaments is because we've had young players that have played with freedom, where they haven't worried about playing for England. They've enjoyed it. So what we're doing now is we're bringing that fear into them. We're putting that fear into them. How do you think they're going to perform? How do you think they're going to play playing for England now? They're going to be scared because they're going to think, if I make a mistake, I get all this abuse. So it's like, it's so backwards. Where it's like, look, why can't we just support our players? They got to the final. Support them. The World Cup is next year. We can do well in the World Cup. Like, let's support our team. Why are you booing them? Why is the Prime Minister telling people it's okay to boo, and then now, saying it's so bad to be racist? It's like, mate, yeah, I'll go on a full rant. I better stop.
I think we could do a whole podcast on that entirely. But yeah, I love the idea of rewriting narratives. I love the way that you've put that across. And, I guess just to end the podcast on a lighter note, I feel like, there was a sense of togetherness, and I think it still is, and it was a tiny bunch of people online, and the players did show amazing strength and leadership, as you say, and there is a lot to be said about coming together and the diversity of the team and the progressive attitudes of the team. So hopefully a lot of us can use the event to continue to bring ourselves together and celebrate each other.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Is that too optimistic?
Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elliot, for talking to me today and for being so genuine and heartfelt and easy to talk to. And, all these things that you're talking about and the conversations that you're having with the other guys around mental health and their parenting experiences is just, totally groundbreaking and incredible. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Can I just give you a wrap up and talk about what we do in Music Football Fatherhood a bit more widely?
Go for it.
So if you're listening, if you're a dad, please check out our website, musicfootballfatherhood.com. So we have a blog. It's got hundreds of articles written by dads about all stages of the parenting journey and all different kind of topics addressed there. We also have a podcast called Daddy Debates, which you can find on Spotify and iTunes, etc. And we do community events. We did one just the Monday gone, which is spoken about. But we also do monthly sessions for new dads called The Lodge. And they are peer sessions for new dads. They're free. You can come along. You can meet some like-minded people, have some fun, hear some guest speakers, and talk about some of the challenges and also the ups about being a new dad too. So yeah, check us out, musicfootballfatherhood.com, and you can find all that stuff there along with the book as well. And also...
Oh, amazing. I'm sure our listeners... Yeah,
yeah, and also one last thing. Apart from that, I also do talks. So I spend a lot of time talking to companies about supporting working dads as well. So recently I've been at De Beers, John Lewis, HSBC, loads of corporate companies, civil service, running workshops and webinars about bringing dads into conversations about gender equality, around masculinity, about supporting working dads, about mental health. So yeah, I spend a lot of time doing that. So if you think your organization needs to bring dads into those conversations, then yeah, contact me and we can make it happen.
Oh, amazing. Thanks for that information. And our listeners, I'm sure, would love to check out those links. So thanks again, Elliot. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. See you soon. Bye.
See ya.